They're gonna sue you!
What?
Well, the craziest season in college football history just got crazier. Florida State, as of 11:05 a.m. this morning, ESPN puts out an article. Florida State suing ACC over grant of rights withdrawal fee. Which is insanity to me. I get them being pissed at the ACC. I've been a huge critic of how the ACC's completely effed this up. And really the ACC has no one to blame but themselves. And the College Football Playoff Committee now. The Florida State's acting like this has nothing to do with them getting snubbed in the College Football Playoff Committee. It has everything to do with that. Now, before we jump into it, we're going to read the article. I want you to think back to the preseason, right before the season started this year. Every Florida State fan and Clemson fan, we'll set Clemson aside for a second, every Florida State fan was on here telling me they're playing 3D, 4D chess, and they're going to be out of the grant of rights and out of the ACC by the end of August. It's a done deal. They're out of here. Grant of rights is no obstacle to them leaving, right? Didn't happen. So I want you to keep that in mind as we read this article. Let's get my attractive face on here. So, Florida State Board of Trustees voted unanimously Friday to sue the ACC to challenge the legacy of the league's grant of rights and its $130 million withdrawal fee, a necessary first step to plot the school's future and potential exit from the conference. Excuse me. The 38-page lawsuit filed in Leon County Circuit Court in Tallahassee, Florida, seeks a declaratory judgment against the ACC to void the grant of rights and withdrawal fee as unreasonable restraints of trade in the state of Florida and not enforceable in their entirety against Florida State. This is going to be the destruction of college football. Every time something happens a school doesn't like, now the thing is antitrust. Anything that happens that is just a little pebble in the road toward us doing exactly what we want to do, it's an antitrust thing. And I want you to think about that. They're claiming antitrust law to get out of the ACC so they can join the SEC or Big Ten, which would create an oligarchy, a monopoly plus one in college football. So they're claiming antitrust, it's not fair for competition to make it less competitive. You need to sue ESPN a la Disney. Now, why won't they do that? You saw it in the title of the video, because they know that, first of all, they don't want to fight Disney's money, right? It's way easier to sue the ACC. The ACC's not the ones that snubbed you, right? You need to be suing College Football Playoff Committee, ESPN. The university alleges chronic fiduciary mismanagement and bad faith in the way the ACC has handled its multimedia rights agreements and undermined its members' revenue opportunities. Florida State is also accusing the ACC of breach of contract and failure to perform. I'll be honest with you, they have a point with some of this. The ACC absolutely sat on their hands, watched Oklahoma, Texas go to the SEC, watched UCLA, USC go to the Big Ten, then the destruction of the Pac-12. And finally, in not even the 12th hour, in the 15th hour, they bring in SMU, Cal, and Stanford. Whoever runs the ACC should have been fired long ago. So, look, no one's come out. I've done tons of videos on how horrible the ACC has managed things and how awful this playoff snub is. But you're pointed at the wrong target. You're pointed at the ACC because that's a way easier path to winning a lawsuit. You definitely don't win a lawsuit against Disney's money. So just be honest about that. If you're a Florida State fan, and I'm with you, this is awful. I understand why you're doing this, but be honest about why you're doing it. You're suing the ACC because it's a way easier target. I believe this board has been left no choice but to challenge the legitimacy of the ACC grant of rights and its severe withdrawal penalties. Board Chair Peter Collins said, "None of us like being in this position. However, I believe we have exhausted all possible remedies with the conference, and we must do what we believe is best for Florida State, not only in the short term but in the long term." I get that. What the stuff later in the article is what I have a problem with. Florida State is now in unprecedented territory. No school has ever challenged a grant of rights in court. ACC officials have previously used the word ironclad to describe the document, and that has been operating assumption. It has been the operating assumption from leagues across the country, believing language in the document is so rigid it would prevent schools from leaving because no school has ever challenged the document in court. Nobody actually knows whether it is indeed as ironclad as described. So we're seeing now in the next year or two there will be no penalties for players transferring with penalty in the portal. You can transfer as many times as you want. Now we're getting to a point where schools are like, not only should players get to transfer whenever they want, schools should get to transfer conferences without penalty no matter what they've signed without. That's what Florida State's saying. We should be able to leave the ACC with zero penalty. That is insanity and bullshit. If you think you should be able to leave with zero penalty, I don't know what to tell you. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips, absolute piece of garbage that he is, and Virginia President Jim Ryan, chair of the ACC Board of Directors, lamented Florida State's unprecedented and overreaching approach in a statement. Florida State's decision to file action against the conference in its direct conflict with their longstanding obligations and is a clear violation of their legal committees to the other members of the conference. Well, they don't care about other members of the conference. Like, I get it. All ACC members, including Florida State, willingly and knowingly re-signed the current grant of rights in 2016, which is wholly enforceable and binding through 2036. Each university has benefited from this agreement, receiving millions of dollars in revenue, and neither Florida State nor any other institution has ever challenged its legitimacy. That, I think, is a good point. If you're saying, well, Florida State laws, antitrust laws say that this grant of rights isn't valid, then you don't get to sleep under the veil of benefits that the grant of rights has offered you, and when it's inconvenient, say it doesn't apply to you. So either, if you do get out, I think you should have to pay back. If you don't have to pay back an exit fee, you should have to pay back all the money that you've received in grant of rights since 2016. That's only logical. If it's non-binding, then you shouldn't receive the benefits that it provided you. At issue is what Florida State has described over the past year as not only growing revenue gaps with the SEC and Big Ten, expected to be $30 million annually per school, but disagreements over the way the media rights money should have been distributed with the ACC. Yeah, they think they should get the majority of it. They want uneven revenue share. Although the ACC recently adopted success initiatives to reward teams for performance in football and men and women's basketball, Florida State has pushed for television money to be distributed unevenly based on media value to the conference. The ACC has refused. This is not where I would prefer to have ended up, University President Richard McCullough said. I would prefer a different pathway, but I feel in many ways we've exhausted all of their options and can't wish and hope that somehow they'll get fixed. I get that he has to be professional in this. Just say, hey, give them both the middle finger and say, we're going to do whatever we can to get out of this. We don't care about any of you. And I get it. We're out of here, and we're suing the ACC because we don't want to fight Disney's money. What happened Friday did not materialize over the past 3 weeks, although the college football playoff stump earlier this month was seen as the last straw. That's complete bullshit, by the way. It has everything to do with that. Again, I said at the beginning of this video, think back to what everyone was saying before the season started. If this isn't legal and it violates Florida's special antitrust laws, why didn't they file this lawsuit then? If it doesn't have anything to do with the playoff snub. And if it does have something to do with the playoff snub, why are you suing the ACC? They didn't make the decision to snub you. Florida State's legal counsel and an outside law firm have been reviewing the grant of rights for well over a year and have been working on legal arguments this summer, spurred forward after an August Board of Trustees meeting in which the trustees demanded a plan of action by the following August. At that meeting, Florida State made it clear it would consider leaving the ACC over its concerns. Our actions today are less about the events of the last 2 weeks and far more about the actions of the ACC leadership over the past 10 years and what confronts FSU in the ACC over the past 13 years. I think it has a lot to do with them getting snubbed out of the playoffs, and I get it. I absolutely get it. Florida State and all other ACC members signed a grant of rights with the league that runs through 2036. The length of its television contract with ESPN, the grant of rights gives the conference control over its media rights, including television, revenue, and home game broadcast of all sports. In addition, any school that wants to leave the ACC would have to pay an exit fee in terms of the league's operating budget, or roughly $130 million. All told, the university estimates the total exit fee, including the forfeiture of television revenue, to be $572 million. That's the thing. They're talking about the exit fee. My understanding is that you can't have anyone else air your games on TV, so you wouldn't get any of your home games televised. I don't know that it addresses that either. Maybe it does. If the grant of rights doesn't apply to you, then I guess none of that other stuff applies to you either. But if it's not legal, why did you sign it twice? I don't understand that. If it's not legal, it doesn't apply to you. It's against Florida State law. You have all these lawyers that looked over this that bill $1,500 an hour, and all of them thought it was okay and fine. But now all of a sudden it's not legal. That's interesting. David Ashburn, managing shareholder of Greenberg whatever in Tallahassee, the outside law firm handling the case, walked the trustees through the lawsuit during Friday's meeting, detailing what the university believes is fiduciary mismanagement in the way the ACC has handled its media rights with ESPN and withdrawing penalties going back to 2010. Here's the thing, though. If you signed a bad deal and the people running it are just idiots, that doesn't mean you get to get out of it, right? I mean, you signed a bad deal. The university alleges that when the ACC reached an extension of its media rights with ESPN in 2016, the agreement granted the network a unilateral option to extend the deal an additional 9 years beyond its expiration of 2027 or until 2036. Florida State also alleges the ACC told its members that ESPN had issued an ultimatum unless the members extended the grant of rights from 2027 to 2036, ESPN would not enter further media agreements with the conference. FSU said it agreed to the grant of rights extension based on this representation. So I guess they're saying the ACC outright lied to them. In addition, the university alleges in the 2016 extension locked its league members to the same rates negotiated in the previous 2012 multimedia rights contract with ESPN. Yes, the SEC has a smaller revenue share than the Big Ten because the Big Ten, their deal is more recent. Like they're saying, in Florida State's minds, you should have like a variable rate revenue share, which is not how anything in business or otherwise works. When you sign, when you get hired by a company, they don't generally adjust your salary by inflation. You have to go negotiate a raise. All right. This doesn't work this way in any other league. Like there's no precedent where they can say, oh, well, every year the SEC teams get more and more and more. No, they have to wait until their next contract date comes up to negotiate it. I mean, this is a little bit weird. Make sure I didn't lose my place. That left league members with the same revenue package for 24 years, all while other conferences had the ability to renegotiate their contracts and increase their revenue. So when you re-signed it in 2016, it was the same rate as it was, however, 15 years before that. I doubt that. If a judge grants declaratory judgment in favor of Florida State, the school would be able to leave the ACC without penalty. The departure would have to be effective August 14th, 2023. Would have to be effective, of that date. Backdated to ensure Florida State could leave the conference in the event of new bylaws being put into place. And again, if that were to happen, and that would probably be the end of the ACC. And that's partly why, cards on the table, partly why I'm so irritated. But logically, this doesn't make sense. If that's the case, then I think you should have to pay back your revenue backdated as well to 2016 at a minimum. The ACC will have an opportunity to file a response to the complaint. If the judge declines to issue a judgment in favor of either side, Florida State and the ACC could be sent to mediation to negotiate a resolution. Think of the precedent this would set to. If Florida State was able to do this, that would set the precedent that any school that grant of rights carries no weight for any conference. So if the Big 12 or the Big 10 wants to poach SEC schools, if they're able to do that, they can. Vice versa, Big 12 can do it. That's a problem for the sport. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. This whole antitrust applies to everything to justify basically making a monopoly in the league is absolutely bonkers to me. Your grievances with Disney, you need to go after them. And also absolutely F you to the College Football Playoff Committee and the ACC. I've kind of went hard on Florida State here, but the two of you, and mainly the ACC, have created this mess. All right, I would love for the commissioner, Morris or whatever his name is, he's a complete mental. I hope he needs to give an interview where he's asked hard questions like, hey, do you think there's anything you could have done better? And what was it leading up to this? What are you going to do to fix it? The other thing is, I know Florida State fans are happy about this. First of all, this will probably be the most expensive to litigate antitrust lawsuit ever, and it might be one of the most expensive to litigate lawsuits, period, in American history. In fact, by the time this is over, grant of rights might be close to being over anyways. All right? This lawsuit might cost you $130 million in lawyer fees in that amount of time anyways, or something comparable to it. So let me know what you think in the comments. I don't even, Georgia Tech plays a bowl today. I mean, damn it, I don't even get to enjoy that. I got to settle down, take some blood pressure medication or something. I don't smoke pot or anything, but anyways, I guess I'll just drink some more DCs. Y'all let me know what you think. Have a good one.